and welcome to the Meet the Candidate and Budget Hearing for York Central Schools for budget year 2025-26. My name is David Furletti. If I haven't met you, I'm Superintendent here, and it is my pleasure to put the budget presentation together and present it to you and answer any questions you may have. But before we get into the budget part of tonight, we are actually going to meet our candidate. So at this time, I'd like to invite Maria Hopkins up to the podium.
The only thing worse than hearing your own voice is seeing a picture of yourself plastered up on a screen, right? If this were a class I was teaching, I would make everyone come up and fill in the first 2 rows, but you're off the hook because it's not. I'm going to tell you a few things about myself tonight, and I'm going to frame it in 3 ways. Number 1, who I am. Number 2, what matters to me. And number 3, some things that you can expect from me as a member of the Board of Education. I will start by saying I have lived in this community since 2008 when we moved here on what used to be my husband's grandfather's farm, Stanley Duell, through a generous gift of land from Uncle David and Celia Duell, where we built our house. And my husband is a lifelong resident of York. He graduated from York in 1999, Jeff. If you don't know the name Jeff Hopkins, you know him because he's always like the tallest person in every room that you walk into. And my children go to school here. My daughter Grace is in 11th grade. You see her on stage as Glinda, as the minstrel, as Babette in the last 3 musicals, and my daughter Zara is in 8th grade. She does a lot of things too, but not necessarily out in front on the stage. They're involved in pretty much anything here that you can be involved in, from athletics to OM to I really do think every single musical opportunity that they could have. So I was really excited earlier to hear Mr. Furletti say that York is one of the best communities for music and being recognized for that. As a parent, I can say that is well deserved and feels very apparent to me. In my professional life, I am a career educator. I taught high school at Letchworth High School. I taught English. That's where I met Jeff. He was teaching math. And then I went on to earn a doctorate and began working at Nazareth University in 2009, where I became a faculty member in the School of Education, teaching students who are becoming teachers. I was the program director of our graduate literacy program, so training literacy specialists who are in our schools, and became an administrator. I was interim dean of the School of Education, and then I became an associate provost, and that's the job that I have now. I want to say that I frame everything that matters to me in terms of the way that I think about my children, the way I live my professional life, and what I value as a community member here in the New York School District. So number 1, the thing that matters to me is high quality education, both in terms of instruction and curriculum, so that our kids are prepared to be contributing members of this community and in society as a whole. I think probably anyone who's on the Board of Education or wants to be, I think that's default has to be our first most important thing. Another thing that really matters to me is something that I have seen as being so beneficial to my own children, which is engagement in extracurriculars and the overall student experience here at York, where I see them making themselves better, and I see them functioning and doing things in a way that are making the school better, that are making our community better, and that ultimately will serve them in terms of whatever they decide to do in their life, through music, through sports, through extracurriculars like OM. Clear and consistent communication matters a lot to me. And when I say clear and consistent communication, I'm talking about communication between the board and the administration and teachers and students and families and the community. The wonderful things we do should not be secrets. the challenges that we face should not be secrets, and the way that we are going about planning and solving the problems that we face should also not be secrets. And so, of course, as a board member, things will have to be confidential at times, but open and honest communication is paramount to me. And then finally, strategic decision-making. Decisions that are going to serve the long-term goals of the district that put the students first. So always thinking about how does this impact students before it impacts anything else. What you can expect from me, and the first thing I'm going to say, I want to turn to the members of the Board of Education, to Mr. Furletti, and I start by saying I am not a confrontational or combative person, but I am very thorough, and I do pay attention to details. And so I will ask hard questions. It's something that I grew up having to do. As a member of a large Italian family where I had to fight to be heard, I learned how to ask good questions and to make my perspectives known. So that's one thing that you can expect from me. I will always weigh in, first and foremost, based on whatever the impact of a decision or a discussion has on student learning and student experience. I will always ask, what do the teachers think of this? My husband likes to say that teaching working conditions are student learning conditions. Or as Mike Barrett said to me, happy teachers make happy classrooms. I've lived that, I believe that, and I know that to be true. And finally, I'll always ask, what is the long-term plan? Because the decisions that we make today are decisions that can impact our community for generations. And this is not a responsibility that I take lightly. So that is who I am. That is what I think. That is what matters to me, and that's what you can expect. And so I don't know what we do now. I just wrap things up. If there are questions, or we can talk later, or you can email me. If you go to my Facebook page, I've got, my email address is public, and so you can always reach out if you have questions or anything you'd like to chat about. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. All right. So, moving into the budget portion tonight, if you've been to any of the budget hearings the past couple of years, you'll know I'll start with really going back to our vision, mission, and values. I'll give you a minute to read. I also make sure I don't read everything to you. Everybody here can read it, so I'll try to make it big enough to do that. Now, a few years ago, what we did see is an increase in mental health needs. So we actually have, a couple of years ago, came together and wrote really what our mental health and well-being statement should be and what we're striving to do on a daily basis for our students. And then our instructional priorities. And again, if you look at these, they aren't in just one area. It truly is a diverse list. Being a small rural school, it really falls to our shoulders and our responsibilities to make sure that we are offering as comprehensive a program and opportunity and experience for our students as possible. This really helps balance the playing field when the students move from high school to post-secondary, where they're going to either college, workforce, and let's face it, who knows what 20 years down the road is going to bring. So we really want to make sure that we are bringing a well-balanced program and offerings to our students. Along with that is we also have to make sure we're looking at our fiscal priorities. That means, as Maria said, and I echo, it isn't just the short term, it's the long term. What are we doing now and how it's going to be able to be sustainable? Or what are we looking at in years to come? Some of the things we're looking at, obviously technology is going to be the heart of a lot of different programs, whatever they go into. But another one is transportation. Just a quick note on that. If, I'm not sure how many people here are aware or not, but there is that electric bus initiative by New York State. There has been some changes to that, and hopefully it'll continue to change, because right now it just isn't feasible. When it was first signed into law, all public schools had to, by 2027, stop buying any fossil fuel vehicles that are used to transport students. And then by 2035, all of our fleet must be converted to non-fossil fuel vehicles for any transportation of students. And that's large buses, small buses, as well as vans or SUVs, so all vehicles. So some of that has been changing. For us personally, we did have a study done. It would cost us about $5.5 million to change our facilities, and about $6.5 million to update our fleet to meet that. So there are some, not just transportation costs and that, but also some facilities costs that would be incurring. But the other part, when you start talking with some of the providers, is right now, the builders of the buses, so to speak, aren't able to meet that demand for everybody in New York State. Last year, there were 4,000 buses across the nation that were built. In New York State alone, they would need more than 50,000 buses to meet this need. So right now, it's just not feasible. So they are looking at changing some of those deadlines and timelines. Most recently, they're looking at adding a 2-year extension on things, but that truly isn't going to be enough. And when you talk to energy providers, they will not have the energy to provide to the school districts to charge everything. So as that happens, we will be updating and going with some other recommendations, but we do have to plan for it in case those deadlines do not change. Other things, reserves, making sure that we do have adequate reserves for short-term and long-term, including, and going to the next one, capital improvements. Our reserves help offset any impact on taxes, increased taxes when we do capital projects. So that's where one of the purposes of the reserves come in. And it's crucial to make sure that for a healthy district, or to some extent, if you think about your own home finances, having a reserve or a savings account for when unexpected costs come up, or in the case of capital project, planned expenses, just like you would in your own life. So now moving into it, and again, if you've been here the past couple of years, you'll know this is an opportunity for us to brag a little bit about everything we do. And again, I do mean brag. If you look, we do provide, and our students and staff go above and beyond in pushing our students and providing excellent opportunities in athletics, fine arts, academics, as well as activities, clubs and activities like OM. This year, I'll get to it a little bit later, we had 13 teams and 5 of them are going worlds, which is a fantastic accomplishment for the students. Also echoing some of the earlier comments, our drama program has really taken on new life. The middle high school drama in the fall put on a spectacular performance, and along with that, I believe Friday night is when they were unveiled. We were the proud recipients, the proud winners of 5 Stars of Tomorrow Awards. So for vocal ensemble, production crew, and 2 leading roles. So kudos to not just the staff, but also the students and families, because it does truly take an effort for everybody to achieve that. Following up and building our Stars of Tomorrow, we had our spring elementary musical, Zombies, the musical, which was incredible. And Katie Desert is here tonight, so kudos to her. I don't know how she did it. She had about 50 4th and 5th graders running around. She kept them all moving in the same direction, learning their lines, choreography, and just really did a tremendous job with it and put on a tremendous show. Following along in our fine arts, we have, and I will go quickly through some of these, but our students have really had some great accomplishments, so I do want to highlight them. So the RTI Start Here art show, I had to make sure I got that right in terms of how it was said. We had some students that entered and placed well in the art show. The Genesee Valley County or Council of the Arts I'm gonna go through these because there are a few of them. But again, you'll see some of the talent of our students, and not just one medium, but different mediums, photography, drawing, as well as animation. And then just an overall how they did, so you saw it all in one place. So again, another tremendous year. Our participation and accolades continue to grow in the field of arts. And then we have one more, the GV Digis, and this is to be announced on the 16th. Right now, we know that this is going to be in the top 3. What we don't know is if it will be the top 1, 2, or 3. Along with this, just to point out and highlight, Lily Spencer is the 2025 recipient of the Staff Sergeant Alexandria May Gleason Morrow Art Scholarship. Again, just another accolade in terms of what our students are doing and the recognition that they are starting to so deservedly get. Shifting into music, again, stellar year for the music program. Our high school concert band won a gold award, which is a tremendous achievement in terms of band achievement and music, not just recognized locally, but really on a much broader scale. The middle school won a silver award. And then the picture here, if anybody came to the concert on the 29th, it was truly a tremendous experience. It had all of our bands, 6th, 7th, 8th, and then the high school band, along with the, try to get it right, the Eastman Educators Wind Ensemble. So truly, when we want to talk about an auditorium full of performance, I was worried that somebody was going to fall off the stage. The stage was so full, and then they also filled out down here in the pit. So the sound, the quality, and just the performance they did was phenomenal. So it was a great experience. So we have a couple more concerts coming up this spring. So please, if you get the opportunity, I would encourage you to. And then 3 all-county festivals. Area All-State. And then moving into Odyssey of the Mind, as I said, we had 13 teams, 11 of them competing, and then 2 primary teams. And then really working towards their end goal of Worlds, which is next week in Michigan. We have 5 teams competing, and those 5 teams are there to the right. Moving into athletics, Vic Van Vliet was inducted into the High School Girls Soccer Hall of Fame this year. Our girls team did go to Albany for the event and participated in a tournament around that event. Staying in the fall, Caitlin Kolb was Coach of the Year for volleyball, and then LCA Division III co-champions. We also had a senior that achieved 1,000 digs for her career here at York. Continuing with athletics, girls basketball, Tessa Rodwell broke the 1,000-point mark, as well as a Section 5 finals team. Staying in the winter, moving to the boys basketball, Ed Orman, who is in the back, Coach of the Year, as well as he would say, the more important announcement is that we are the Class C2 champions, sectional champions for the year. So congratulations to Ed and the boys there. And then as recent as last week, Riley Kuzo broke the shot put record for the school. And then balancing our athletic achievements, we also have our scholar athletes. So our scholar teams, if you look at the fall and the winter, not only were they successful on the field or the court, but also in the classroom. And then we competed once again at Tech Wars at GCC. And you can see the several students in the categories that they, the categories that they competed in there. Livingston County Teen Recognition Award, as well as a New York State Teen Leadership Award presented by Senator Hellman. This year, our mental health team was awarded the Genesee Valley School Board's Award for Excellence in Student Services. A well-deserved, hard-earned award. The other thing that was awarded this year was the New York State Public Relations Association Merit Award for last year's budget newsletter. So, as you can see, just at a quick glance, there are a lot of wonderful things happening here, and that is really due to the tremendous effort of the staff and the hard work of the students. So, again, kudos to them, and now moving into the actual numbers part of it, if you will. So, starting with enrollment, and I think that it's important to start with this because there has been a trend. So here's a 10-year look at what's been happening with enrollment. So if you look at these 10 years, starting in 2016, and then we do have a projection. The last one is the projected enrollment on September 1 next year. We have lost about 100 students. So we know our enrollment is going down, and accordingly, we have to plan for that. The other thing that I do want to say is, even though our enrollment's going down, you still saw the wonderful things that our students are able to achieve and really excel in. Another way to look at our enrollment, so here is the enrollment trend about over the same years up until this year, and this is the enrollment at each grade level. So if you compare 2016-17, and you'll see a lot of the classes are in 50s, 60, and there's only a couple in the 40s, and the 40s are high 40s. And then you go over and you look at our enrollment today, you won't see any in the 60s. Those that are in the 50s are the low 50s, but the bulk of our grade levels are now in the 40s. And this is a trend that continues. As we've talked about at the past couple of board meetings, our current UPK enrollment is 26, where we could take up to 32. So that means even the students coming in at that early level, that number continues to drop. So that is one thing that we do have to make sure we are cognizant of. One, or some of the impact of that, both for our planning for next year, fiscally as well as instructionally, we have eliminated 8 positions. 1 PE teacher, physical education, 1 position in ELA, a math, earth science, and 4 elementary. So with that, phys ed and the 4 elementary, very easy if you go back to the enrollment, see with the decreased enrollment, it's a very easy correlation between the two and going from 3 sections to 2. With the ELA math, again, class sizes, as the numbers come down, what we're seeing is that our classes, we are able to combine them. So where we might have 3 sections of algebra or 3 sections of geometry, we can start reducing those down to 2 sections and still have those class sizes that make it a good instructional environment for the students and staff. And then with earth science, We've been looking for 2 years for an earth science teacher and just have not found one. So at this point, as we're changing next year from earth science into earth and space, as well as looking ahead when the state starts talking about pathways to graduation and different ways where it's not necessarily going to be a regents diploma per se in terms of they must take all of the regencies to graduate. There are going to be different pathways. This is another chance for us to adjust it while also still offering the courses and the experience for our students. So, along with those changes, what it would be is K3 is going to move into 2 sections per grade. All students would still receive the same services. Class sizes would be moving in ranging between 14 to 20. But along with that, we are able to support and put more support into the classrooms to help support that transition and the students. As we go through the next couple of years, the anticipation as these small class sizes move from 3rd grade to 4th grade, next year we would be looking to reduce 1 more position at 4th grade, following year at 5th grade, and that trend would continue. When it starts hitting 7th grade, it would look a little bit different because of certifications and departments, but those are things that we will be continuing to look at, analyze, and make adjustments when necessary. As we move into the expenses, here you'll see a 3-year look. The current year is in the middle, and then we have the actual numbers from last year and then projected for next year with these. And you'll see overall the expenses are going down from 20.8 million to around 20.6 million. Biggest difference in there is under the bond payments and building. We have about $500,000 coming off of, about 450 to be a little bit more precise, coming off of our debt service. So that's where a lot of that is happening. And then obviously when we eliminate 8 positions, we do see that impact in terms of the general education costs. Three-part expense budget. So if you take our budget and you put it into the 3 categories, administrative, instructional, and capital, you're going to see about 10% of our budget is administrative, 77% is instructional, and 13% capital. That means with the 77%, the vast bulk of our expense is in the classroom, which is where it needs to be. And then you'll see the changes there, administrative down by 1%, instructional up 1%, capital down by 12%. Overall impact on budget is down 1% this year to next year. Looking at that same idea in terms of the 3-part, these are the things that are in each of those parts. All right, shifting from expenses into revenue. So this is how we are going to pay for those expenses. So if you look, there is about a 2% increase in foundation aid. So that's the one when we start looking at the budget from the governor and then the legislative in Albany, that is the crucial number to us, what's happening with that. The past few years, we've seen at least 3%. This year, it's about 2%. So that's going to be about a $90,000 that we thought we were going to get that we did not get. So it's about a 2% increase. And then from there, BOCES, I guess I want to say the next 3 lines, BOCES, high cost and private excess aid, those are all expense driven. So that means we have to spend money this year to figure out what the aid is going to be next year. And those will continue to fluctuate along with the transportation until June 30th. So it's really the foundation aid that we use as a predictor. Typically, the BOCES aid will go up some, but the transportation aid comes down, and it's about an offset of each other. So that's where we typically will stick with our numbers, and this is just a state aid. Moving to overall revenue, main two categories in terms of revenue are going to be state aid and property taxes. About a third of our budget is funded through property taxes and 2/3 by state aid. And then we've got the miscellaneous revenue, Medicaid reimbursement, and then fund appropriated reserves and fund balance. Again, state aid being the biggest one, and this is where the state aid comes in terms of different categories. When we start talking about tax levy, because that's always a critical question, here is a 6-year look at our tax levy compared to what our tax cap. So the tax cap is the maximum amount that we could go out to levy without going to 60%. Just a simple majority would pass it. And then the inflation factor is essentially the cost of living and the increase one year to the next. So if you look at it, the cost of living and the inflation factor for next year is 2.95. Our allowable tax cap is 2.76. We are looking to go out at a 2% increase. And then if you look at the 6 years, we are consistently below the tax cap and inflation factor. So in short, next Tuesday on the 20th, we are asking the community to come out and vote on a budget that's $20,587,581 and would have an increase in 2% on the tax levy. Questions? Yes, sir. So some of it's going to be a couple of different things. So even though enrollment's going down, personnel costs, so salaries, benefits, and I guess ERS, FICA, those continue to increase. So even though we see some decreases, we had, if you will, just projected overall, not just transportation, we had about $450,000 increase in personnel costs. Some of that transportation, the bulk is going to be instruction. So transportation, there's still going to be some costs there just from the human side of things. But the other thing we've been seeing, especially in the past, I'm going to say 4 years, is we have a lot of students that are being transported either out of the district placements or that are considered homeless, and we have to go pick up and bring them back to our district because they've been displaced. So when you start factoring those in, a lot of our costs and a lot of our increases are going to be because we had additional money we had to do that went farther than we normally do, or just more. Insurance services? In terms of transportation, we do as much as we can. So that takes into account some of that, but the reality is not all of our runs will line up with another school that might be going by, or we have to go to a neutral place to sort of catch up. But that doesn't always work. We try to do that, and Tracy and Paul work very closely with the other districts to see what we can do and minimize those. But the reality is they always don't line up. Other questions? So right now, all of our students are covered. All right, so just make sure everybody got that question. It was around food, and currently our students are covered, and do we anticipate that to be covered for next year? The answer is yes, in short. So right now, our students are covered 2 different ways. All students receive free lunch, free breakfast, and the bulk of that money right now comes from federal, which actually reimburses us at a higher rate. Now, New York State, as part of their budget, is guaranteeing that if the federal stops, that they will fill in and do that, but they reimburse at a lower cost. So I do anticipate the program continuing, But what we will see is there may be times where we as a district have to cover any losses or when we go into the red with respect to that. Okay, you're welcome. Mr. Beers. Yeah. For this year or projected for next year? For this budget that we're voting on, okay. We currently have 300 and change in that budget line, and that would be for 2 large buses, enough to cover that, as well as a possible small bus, depending, or vehicle, van, SUV. We did take out of the budget when we first were developing it. We had added in 108,000 in projection for the EV busing. But when we started to have a shortfall or a gap, we did take that back out, and we did not add that in for next year. I knew there was going to be more than one question. Mm-hmm. So the reduction of staff actually, between both salary and benefits, was about a $560,000 savings to the district. But with the benefits, we did see, I want to say it was 12.3% for healthcare alone in terms of benefits. So that's going to be that big part of the change from the 4.7 to 4.9 next year. Is that what you're looking at? Oh, okay. All right. It's going to be closer to that, yes. So one of the things, so the question, if you didn't hear it, is he's actually referring to the 23-24 school year. And employee benefits were 3.7 million. And then this year the projection was 4.7, and then next year 4.9. The biggest reason for that is last year was the last year of the stimulus or federal aid in terms of COVID money. So a lot of our expenses that would have been in the employee benefits actually were shifted over to the federal grants line. So that's where there's a decrease, but the 4.7 this year and then the 4.9 is more accurate in terms of what that actually will be. Maria? Sure. So when we start looking at it, so the question, if you didn't hear it, was the impact of the 4 reduction in elementary level for FTEs, and then also the ratio of. Okay. So looking at that, so the impact there is class sizes will go from around 14 to 20. And then in terms of other supports, what this also allows us to do is to actually embed more literacy support into the classrooms. So every one of those classrooms will have additional support in there, whether it's an aid or additional literacy support. And then in terms of ratios of special ed to gen ed, the ratio actually goes down because typically what we would have is special ed students, especially at the primary level, there might only be 1, 2, or 3 in a classroom. And there'd be the additional support for them in terms of the special ed teacher helping out. But then when we also bring in additional students, where the ratio might be currently, let's say, 3 to 14, that ratio then becomes actually 3 to 20. Absolutely. So we will be looking at not just the impact in terms of next year, so it'll be a comparison of how was it last year, this year, next year, and what's going to be the changes that we see. We are hoping by embedding the additional literacy into the classroom, that we will see a positive impact on that. The other thing is making sure that we have an aid in those, especially the kindergarten, first grade classes, as that second adult that can help with some of the behaviors, so the teacher's able to focus on the learning and the instruction. We don't currently have that as full-time in all of the first grades. So those are things that we're looking at to help with that, because obviously, when you put more little bodies in the room, you're going to need a little bit more support doing that. Okay.
And we did start, if everybody doesn't know, a couple years ago, we did start at an elementary level, and my son happened to be in it, and I was very much hesitant of it, and his class went from 3 to 2, and it actually went very well, from a parent having a student in that level. It went a lot better than I thought going into it that it was going to go, and even with special education services, it's still better than I thought it was going to go. Grade 4. Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
In 4 classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely. And there's going to be a lot of the additional supports in terms of they're going to need, and in terms of some of that's going to be the social and emotional, and that's where the counselors will be doing more, whether it's one-on-one or groups. A couple of years ago, we did add the second counselor full-time into the elementary, which has helped so we could really focus their time. But again, it's one of those things, getting them into the routine, holding the high expectations and the rigorous, but also the support along the way. And then as we move through, it's also that building towards independence. So, yes. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
You talked about not being able to find an earth science teacher, and you were going to put this into earth science and space. You currently have a teacher in that position that's going to be able to do it.
So, yes. So with respect to the earth science, so for the past 2 years, we've had a long-term sub in there. So this move, we've had the classes, but this would be the move, both reducing the department some, as well as a change from earth science to earth and space. Next year, what we're actually going to do is we're going to have the students go from living environment or biology in 9th grade to next year being chemistry. So chemistry is moving from 11th grade to 10th grade for the students. And then the following year, earth and space would become an elective, where the students could take that, they could take environmental science or physics.
So you have a teacher for that now?
Yeah, yep,
It's not a long-term sub.
it is not. But keep in mind, when it's a course that's not leading to a Regents exam, then it would fall under general science certification. So most of our teachers would be able to do that, and we do have a teacher that's interested in doing it. Yeah.
Another question, there's a pretty big jump in your library line item there. Can you explain that a little bit? According to that's not up
Yep.
there, but according to your newsletter, I think it's 13%.
No, so if you look at it, it's pretty much right in the middle of it. So again, last year it was 68, last year 68, this year 184, and then it goes up to 204. So again, last year, some of their day, half their day is spent in STEM and some exploration. So with some of the federal funding that came out, we shifted some of their expenses from general fund into federal. So the increase isn't overly dramatic. It was just that the expenses have been there. They were just accounted for in a different budget line. Does that answer your question? No. Okay.
So you're saying that it was federally funded or what?
So for the past 3 years, we received federal funds because of COVID. And what we're able to do, no, we took what they were teaching. So it was enrichment. You could do remediation and you could do enrichment. So some of what they were doing was enrichment. So yes, we took some of their salaries and applied it into the federal grants.
Another question, according to that slide right there, you have transferring of $300,000 of capital, and according to your newsletter,
I would have to go back and check. So it should be 300. What we've got is transfer to capital is more for capital projects. So every year we have a $100,000 project that we're looking to do that would be fully aided the following year. And then for the past 3 years, we've done a $200,000 project that would help a much smaller project than a big 6 million or 7 million, but it would help us in targeted areas. So this year we used it and did a couple of the stairwells that needed to be both brought up to code as well as just updated. So we're doing smaller projects that way, but it should be 300,000.
So this page 5, capital reserve fund is not correct.
I would have to check. If that's what you're reading, then yes, it should be 300, but I would have to go back and check.
Is there any other information in this letter that's not correct?
I'm sure if there is, you'll tell me.
No, only if I have the proper information to do it.
Okay, we will go back through it and check. Yes, Sandy?
I just want a clarification to make sure I'm understanding. In regards to the earth science position, that is not just the earth science district challenging,
Correct.
having difficulty.
Certification area, yeah, yes.
So that's a New York State where
Correct.
kids are, graduates coming out there are not candidates for that. And it is a New York State move to go to earth and space.
Yes, on both accounts, but just a couple of things. So, Earth and Space would still be a Regents course if you had the certified teacher for it. And yes, it is a challenge. So last year, in all of Rochester area, there was one Earth Science graduate coming out of college. So, yes, it is a challenging subject area to find certification in. But again, we will be looking at it as a non-Regents level course that will go into the science pathways, if you will, that would still lead to graduation. Yes, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I see you're making 8 cuts in teaching. Is there any other cuts you're making in here? It's not noted.
Those are the only eliminations that we have at this point.
So no cuts in co-curricular activities, no cuts in interclass sports?
No. With both the clubs and activities, they are vital to our students, and again, when you compare those to the overall cost of the budget, it isn't a tremendous amount. And then with respect to the interscholastic sports, more and more we're having shared teams between us and Pavilion, where some of the expenses are, I would say, either shifted or eliminated from our budget, because Pavilion might be taking them, and then if we are the host team, we accept their expenses, but we had those before the merger as well. And that's been going on, I want to say, about 10 years.
Too bad we can't do that for administration.
Well, we actually do look at that from time to time. Any other questions? All right. Well, get here to my final slide here, just as a reminder. So again, the vote is next Tuesday out here in the auditorium lobby. It is 8 to 8. We will be at 8 o'clock for all those that are interested. We will be actually going through and counting the write-in ballots. So if you really want a good time, show up around 8 o'clock and you can be here for that. Other than that, have a wonderful night. Please drive safely. And I hope to see everybody on Tuesday. Thank you. You too.